Can you guess that theme song?
Shut the fuck up.
Oh, God. All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Zero Cred Podcast, where we have zero credibility, as you just heard, and a lot of opinions. We just got through seeing Avengers Endgame. We're going to do a very, very quick, spoiler-free rehash because we got a lot of cool shit that we want to get into. John is like holding everything. He looks like he's holding in the largest turd.
Well, he was earlier.
He held that son of a bitch for over 3 hours. I'm proud of him. But it was amazing. I'm gonna jump right. It was fucking amazing. It was the movie. What, 23 movies? Is that where we're at? 23 movies now.
20. Is this the
22 or
is this the 23rd or 22nd?
It's either the 22nd or the 23rd.
I think it's the 20.
Yeah, awesome. Look that up.
22nd.
John's the 27th.
But I think 22 or 23 movies. 10 plus years now, like 11 years, right?
10.
10?
I think
11.
it was 2008.
2008, so we're 11 years.
10.
10, yeah, 11 years.
It's in the number. It's in the
10,
number.
10, 11 years. that many years.
Yeah, I guess it's 11, yeah.
And the payoff is fucking worth it as all hell. Oh my, I'm not even playing.
Could you imagine that, how we felt leaving that movie?
Oh God,
it's trash. It was just a bit outside.
So good.
Yeah,
so fucking
really
good, guys.
I enjoyed it.
So fucking good. Oh my God.
I think Civil War's got some.
This is the best Marvel movie ever.
Okay, well.
It's the best Marvel movie ever.
I don't know.
I think it is. I think it's the
Maybe.
best Marvel movie ever. Oh
We'll
God. You name me one better. Exactly.
I didn't know. Oh, well, we gotta be I gotta be in spoilers first before I can do all that.
But that's my thoughts. I thought it was amazing. Everything was done so well. It tied everything together so neatly, and I mean, there's just nothing. I can't think of a negative thing to say about the movie. I really can't. John,
we will get into it later.
John, quick thoughts.
I give it a 99%.
So a 10 from John.
No, it is a 9.999 repeating.
I wasn't going to be like a regular number. You were like, I give it a 99. I think, a 9. You're like 99%.
If it's out of 100, it's 99, which is still better than all the other ones.
Yeah. Oh God.
I think it got like a 97 on Rotten Tomatoes.
I think that's what it was.
I think that's what it started to be at, and I think it got lowered because it's not the highest rated Marvel movie on
Right, because
Rotten
isn't
Tomatoes.
like Black Panther still like the highest with like 90?
I would imagine.
Okay.
It started off.
Black Panther is ridiculously high.
It started off top, and then another day or two passed, and it got brought down. I think it's at like 94, 95.
That's fucking good, though.
Yeah,
that's good.
What are your thoughts, Warren?
It was great. It made me cry. So
I'm not even gonna lie.
Whenever a movie can make me cry, you win.
I cried a lot. I did.
So I'm good.
I mean, if I'm gonna give it a number. Fucking 10. I give it a 10 out of 10. I do. I think it's the best Marvel movie ever, and I think it's one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. It's a solid 10 out of 10.
How many superheroes were in this movie?
All of them. The DC universe showed up. All of them.
All of it.
I give it however many superheroes were in this movie. Out of 10. That's what I give it. So, it was really good. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with this movie too.
It was a lot of fun. It was emotional.
And I will say that the 3 hours doesn't feel like 3 hours.
It didn't feel like 3 hours at all to me. John had a difference.
So we have 97 for Black Panther and 96 for Endgame.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
I wish you all could have seen the look on his face just now when he was laughing.
Yeah, it wasn't bad that it felt longer than that, but I guess we don't have 3 hour long movies very often, so it's hard to even understand how long that actually is. And then when you're watching a movie this big, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you're just like, oh, this is the end.
Right.
Oh no, this is the end. I'm like, are we 6 hours into this? What's going on here? And
it did have a few moments, especially in that third act, where I was like, it's about to end.
Right.
And it didn't. And I was like, okay, so it's ended now.
We still have 45 more minutes.
Yeah. I will say I've only seen 2 other movies in the movie theater that were 3+ hours long.
Titanic?
Yeah, Titanic was one
You're
of
old.
them. Yeah, that's how old I am. I was old enough to go see Titanic in the movie theater. And Casino, which is older than Titanic.
Jeez.
And both of those. Casino, I went in on a Tuesday afternoon and I walked out on a Monday morning. That's what it fucking felt like. The movie felt so long. And Titanic it felt way longer than this movie.
What's like when we were leaving, people were walking in to see it. I'm like, you guys ain't getting out of here till almost 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's.
By the time the showing starts, you see your trailers and watch the movie. Like,
yeah.
Fuck.
But God, it was so good.
Yeah.
I stand by my 10.
If you have not seen it, just go see it.
Yeah,
There's
if you haven't seen it, please go see the movie. Stop listening to this. Go see it because. Let's talk about spoilers, John. I know you're excited.
Well, I'm not ready.
You're not ready?
Okay, what do you have?
Nothing. I just wanted to say that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now I'm ready.
Okay.
John was really excited to get into the spoilers.
There's just so much to talk about. There's 3 hours of content. 3 hours and 3 minutes of content. To be
3
precise.
hours and 3 minutes. That's exactly how long it is.
I believe
183 minutes. Wow.
I believe so.
The cold open, I guess is what it would be called. It would be called the cold open. I believe is we start with Hawkeye at his farm, and he's teaching his daughter to shoot the bow and arrow. And he doesn't need to teach her very long because she fucking hits a bullseye the first shot. And
I thought you were gonna say because she gone.
Because she's gone. Yeah, because he steps away, or he tells her to get the arrow. He steps away, picks something up, turns around. She's gone. Looks down where his wife and his 2 sons were, and they're gone. And we see remnants of the dust. And it's just immediately you're like, holy shit. So,
am I the only person when I saw that kind of was like, I think I want a movie about the people who are dealing with the snap
that aren't in the movie.
That
aren't in the movie.
Yeah.
Just like just a movie about the regular people.
Yeah.
Like, and then maybe just select a small group that kind of has to band together maybe to survive the snap.
Yeah.
Because Warren and I talked about this one day where odds are there's going to be some section of the earth that wasn't even affected, barely affected. And then there's going to be some areas where the whole city disappeared because, you know, it's a balancing act. Mm-hmm. The odds are there's enough big cities, you know, Chicago got completely decimated and Kansas City was, you know, like 6 people are gone. Like that could have happened. So it would have been it would have been interesting.
That either says something great about Kansas City or not.
It would be interesting to see
would be, yeah.
Like a mini series about people dealing with the snap.
Yeah, it would definitely be really interesting because we do get to see elements of that when Cap is leading that support group.
Yeah, we have the time.
And those guys are very, very affected by this.
Right.
And
one of those guys being the Russo brother.
Yeah, was it really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the guy talking about
that was one of the directors.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't know which one's which, but
I've never seen them. So yeah, that's cool.
The speculations were kind of right, where they just team up right at the beginning. And like, let's go take this guy down.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, I
didn't expect that at all, and but I had heard people talking about that. And boy, they found him, and
this might be the most brutal MCU movie that we've seen.
Right?
I mean, because they held.
Well, what led up to that was not what they were expecting because they thought they were going to show up and they were going to be able to take the stones and just do it, but he had destroyed them.
Right.
So in their eyes, he had just fucking completely erased any chance of them being able to reverse it.
Well, they rolled up on him like he was still full power.
Yeah.
Like Captain Marvel flew in there.
He looked like the Phantom of the Opera. Like his whole left side was just singed.
And Captain Marvel came in there like just was trying to annihilate him and put him in a headlock, arm bar, back bar, leg bar. And then Thor was just like, chop, just cut his hand off. And I was like,
yeah, when they cut the hand off, I was like, oh, that's intense. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then he didn't even like.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, fuck that hand. I don't need it.
I don't know how much feeling he had left in it anyway.
Right. He's like, it was probably a relief. He's like, oh, thank God. Thank you.
It was so heavy.
I was running out of like triple antibiotic ointment anyway.
Yeah, but then it was good to see the lack of reasoning in the characters via desperation.
Yeah,
because one, you had a Carol Danvers who was so determined. She was just like, "This sounds very simple. Let's just go get the stones back."
right. Yeah,
right. So it's cool. It was nice to see her be like, "I'm just gonna go kill him," and they're like, "Whoa, like you didn't fight him," and she's like, "Y'all weak. I got it." But it was also good to see like someone of the caliber of Thor be like, "I don't even know what to do anymore, so I'm just gonna kill him,"
Right.
and that's it.
Yeah,
Like that's how impactful that was, and they made it very clear. And they were like, "Oh, these guys got him. They got it and get the stones." And then he was like, "The stones are gone."
yeah.
So you
he
lost
used the stones
forever.
to destroy the stones.
And there was a really out of character moment, which showed you and you understood in the rest of the movie where Thor was mentally.
Yeah,
And he just fucking cuts his head off.
yeah.
And you're just like, and now that's when I was like, oh, this one's different.
Yeah, this is definitely not the same Marvel movie
This
we've
is
been
not
getting.
Far From Home or Ant-Man. This is this
Right.
is different.
This is far
This
from
is, this is
Right.
far from it. Yeah.
And it probably, I don't know if it was meant to be funny or not, but when they were like, "What did you do?" and he was like, "I went for the head,"
Right.
and I was like, "Ha!"
Yeah,
And
he
I was
just took
like,
his
but
advice.
It definitely wasn't meant to be funny,
Right.
but it was kind of like, "Eh."
So that takes us to 5 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, actually, we kind of glossed over the fact that Tony was still floating in space.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, I wonder
yeah,
if
he looked,
I don't know if that was CGI or
dude, he did look terrible though. He looked terrible.
I'd imagine that.
I don't think so because they filmed these two movies at the same time.
Yeah,
So,
that's one
yeah.
point, and the other point is the amount of CGI that they've put on the people already to make them look younger and stuff. I think that they could pull that off.
Yeah,
They
don't.
probably
People
did.
don't need to lose weight like that hardly anymore, unless the movie only costs like $50 to make. Then you ain't eating no Big Macs for a long time. But yeah, since they did film these two movies at the same time, and actually I learned something on Jimmy Fallon the other night. I didn't realize Brie Larson filmed all of her stuff for this movie before she filmed one scene for Captain Marvel. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
that's been like the big thing. They didn't even have a script
Yeah.
for Captain Marvel when she came in.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Since we're going to talk about Jimmy Fallon and his jewels that he's dropping, she did her interview and she was talking about how you should have turned your phones off.
Yeah, my bad.
It's okay. But she was talking about how her Captain Marvel end credit scene, there was nobody there.
Yeah,
It
that was
just
interesting.
her.
Yeah, I
So
saw that too.
That was pretty cool. They did a really good job of making it look like everybody.
She did a really good job of enacting it because I was laughing my ass off when she was looking around the room at the 5 people
that weren't there.
That weren't there. They're like, "Can you mark them off?" And the way she was looking was cracking me up. It was funny shit.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess they didn't. I don't know if they're just trying to if they just didn't want to do too much with her in this movie because they didn't know how her movie was going to be. But we didn't get a whole lot of Captain Marvel in this movie.
I think they did that intentionally.
They explained why.
Yeah, at least they did that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it made sense to not have a whole lot of her, but because the way I'm kind of viewing it is, spoiler alert, guys, she's going to be the face of Marvel for the next probably 10 years, and I'm fine with that.
She's the new captain.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, and she the flow of the movie was very much ending where it started, you know, and I like the way they did that. That's why her character wasn't in the movie as much as some people were probably expecting it to be. She was in it enough for me though. She was badass when she was in it too. Right. But yeah, they Tony's in space. They run out of oxygen, and who shows up to save him? Captain Marvel.
I think I was more excited, like, to see her show up and save Tony than I was the entire Captain Marvel movie.
Oh yeah,
like when she was flying, and I was like, yeah,
that was dope. She showed up and looked cool.
I don't
as
know
shit.
if it's because I was just glad he wasn't gonna die right there, or if, but I thought it was cool how she kind of just showed up, was like, hey, it's me. And then she flew in with she was carrying the ship, and I was like, okay, this is the kind of stuff that make me believe this woman can just fight Thanos.
Right.
But she showed with the ship, that was cool. Everybody comes running out, and they're like, what is this? You know what it is. And then Tony comes out, and him and Pepper have their reunion, and that was sweet.
And then they do their little plan to try and go. That's when they do the plan to try and go get the stones.
Well, Tony has a meltdown.
Oh yeah, he has a huge meltdown.
Which I guess
huge
is
meltdown.
Fair.
Yeah.
Being stuck in space, losing after you were like, hey, listen.
Getting his ass kicked by Nebula at fucking football.
Yeah. Yeah. And he called it. He was like, look, this is gonna happen and we're gonna lose. And then everybody was like, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, no, you need to fucking listen to me. And they didn't. So he really felt like they kind of just didn't heed his warning, and it's their fault that they lost. Called Cap a liar.
Obviously you get it from Tony's perspective because Tony only saw what Tony saw.
Right, yeah.
But they all did lose together. If he would have been like, hey, I was fighting too.
He wasn't trying to listen though, was he?
Right.
Yeah.
You get it from Tony. It's one of the
listen.
rare moments where you get it from Tony's perspective, but you're like, you feel bad because you're like, Cap was fighting, man.
He was fighting his ass
yeah,
off.
give him a break, man.
He kind of had the B squad. You had you had an A squad.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, technically, I guess Cap had the A squad. They just had to fight an army before he showed up. So it's kind of unfair to them, I guess. But
yeah, Tony had a teenager and a wizard.
yeah, but that wizard.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, well, he didn't have them. They just happened to be there, and they're like, I guess we'll do this together.
Also, excuse me, Tony had, when you say a wizard, but that wizard was technically the strongest superhero that we had at the time, so I don't want to hear your excuses. No, but that was interesting to see, and then he passed out, and then they were like, let's go get the stones. Went and got them, or didn't get them because they weren't there, and then they were like, time travel is probably what's going to be happening.
Well, now for 5 more years, they didn't talk about it.
Yeah, they didn't do
5
anything.
years.
I thought one of the coolest aspects of it was kind of like what we were saying about seeing a show or something dealing with the aftermath was watching Scott Lang figure out what happened.
Yeah.
He's 5 years later.
He had no idea. I love how he got rescued.
Warren did not like that.
You
I
didn't
was
like
sitting
that?
right
No,
next to him. He was like,
that's how he got out?
Yeah,
I thought that was funny as shit.
It was funny,
But it was kind of like,
But
because I wanted it to be like, he kind of figured out how to navigate and he got out.
Yeah.
But he's not that kind of guy. He's not that kind of guy. He's smart, but he's not that smart. He's an engineer.
It's Endgame.
It doesn't matter. Endgame doesn't give you a degree.
It don't matter. It's Endgame. You gotta just make it happen.
And that rat did.
Yeah, fuck the rat.
That fucking rat.
well, it wasn't Endgame
hero.
for him. It was only 5 hours later.
Yeah.
He was on the end credits of Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I'm surprised they even said it took that long.
Right.
5 years or 5 hours. I'm surprised he said it took 5 hours.
Yeah, and then there was the cameo for the security guard. I can't think of his name. He was in The Hangover.
Ken Jeong. Ken Jeong.
Yeah, that was cool. He didn't say anything, but he just
that was pretty cool.
He was like, "Whatever you got."
I was like, "Is that Ken Jeong?"
I'll be in the
fucking
movie.
was.
Whatever you got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just call him Chang because that's his name in the show Community. His name's just
Oh,
Chang.
yeah, that's right.
I was like, oh, Chang. I was like, that's not his. What is his real name?
Yeah,
but yeah, that was a weird 2-minute or 2-second cameo. I was like, oh yeah, that guy.
And,
so that's how Scott gets out. Fucking rat steps on the thing, accidentally turns it on, and brings him back out.
And he spends his time trying to figure it out, and then he gets to his house. Well, no, he goes to the memorial.
Yeah, he goes to the memorial and he sees all the names.
I was like, he's going to see his daughter's name.
But he sees his.
Then he sees his name, and then he turns to dust.
That would have been.
But and then he runs home and has this really emotional moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you for representing Kansas City well, Paul Rudd. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah. Good acting.
Yeah,
that was a really good scene.
That was great. That was so good. Yeah. He sees his daughter who is 5 years older.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
she recognizes him.
So she
because he looks exactly the same.
Is she considered
She's probably about 17. I think she was like 12.
Because she looked like a damn adult to me.
Well, 17.
Well, it was a rough 5 years.
It was a rough 5 years. Yeah, some shit had went down.
I had to grow up, Dad. But yeah, but that was pretty cool that she was, even though he lost Hope and Hank and
I thought you meant he just lost hope.
Lost Hope, yeah.
I was like, I don't think he was that bad. Yeah,
he wasn't that bad.
He was no Ronan.
No,
not Ronan. What's Hawkeye's new name?
Ronan.
Ronan.
Oh, okay, I was right.
Yeah. There's 2 Ronans, though, because there's Ronan, and then there's Ronan, the accuser. And
He's
then
not
there's
fucking with
Ronan.
you. That's really, mind
I
blowing.
shouldn't doubt myself.
What if they... Never mind, I'm not going to do that. Because I'm going to get off topic. But that was... At least he saw Cassie and got that moment. But then he gets to the... Well, I guess they have the little... What is currently the Avengers, which is like Okoye and Rocket.
Right, yeah.
And they're all doing their thing. And then that's when we find out that Clint's out there just killing mob bosses and whoever else he feels should be dead. But clearly Natasha's struggling to keep it together. And
yeah, because she's kind of the impromptu leader, it seems now, because Cap has kind of devoted his time, it looks like, to helping the rest of society kind of move on with his support groups and stuff.
Yeah, and she basically is just doing this to keep herself busy.
Right, yeah.
And then her and Cap kind of have a little heart-to-heart, and then Scott shows up.
Yeah, he finds them. And that's when he obviously proposes the quantum realm. Is that what it's called? Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Golly. And it was a long movie, guys.
yeah. But it was really, once again, really good acting by Paul Rudd.
Yeah, he's so good. Because he's kind of a little manic. You know what I mean? He's a little manic, and he's trying to explain to them because he's not a scientist, so he's just trying to say smart words in right ways. Use the time, and you go in one, and you come out the other.
And they're like, what's going on? And he's like, don't you understand? It was 5 years for y'all, 5 hours for me. Nothing has changed. Everything's different in that time. It's like a really small, microscopic, and they're just looking at him like, what? And then he asked him if any of them study quantum physics, and
Natasha was like, just for conversation.
Just for conversation. Like, I don't actually study. And then he's kind of like, oh, well, you get it. And then they decide they're going to try to do it, but they
got to pay a visit to Tony.
Yeah, who apparently has a kid.
Who, has settled down and, man.
Give Pepper, some time and affection.
He was giving her lots of time and affection. Or give her a lot of affection and little time. Nah, not time and affection. It's Tony.
It was interesting to see, them out in the woods in a cabin and not, some cliffside mansion.
Yeah, exactly. It was a much more simple Tony.
I think it's a humble Tony.
Yeah.
I think is what that was trying to portray.
But as we also saw while he was there, he still had it all decked out with some crazy tech.
Yeah,
I was like, what is this hologram time machine thing that you have built in your living room?
Yeah, and they try to come get him to join, and he's just like, nah, player, I'm good.
Yeah,
I got a kid now.
Right.
I got lucky. My wife's here. My kid's here. Sorry. Not going to risk it.
Right. So they reluctantly leave, and they go to what they quoted as they needed a bigger mind. And that's when we get to see Professor Hulk.
Yeah.
And it is freaking awesome, man.
Great. It's good.
It is so cool.
Yeah, it was interesting for sure.
I loved it. I thought it was too funny.
That got to be like where you're reminded, oh yeah, these are comic books.
Yeah.
Like, it's you can watch these movies and be like, oh, this is just a really cool movie. But then when you get to Professor Hulk, you're like, oh yeah, this is a comic book movie. This would never happen in real life. like this is nowhere near reality. But yeah, it was interesting, and I like how he was playing like a celebrity. Kids come up with their pictures. Like,
yeah, that was good. That was good.
You want a picture with Ant-Man? You guys want a picture? He's literally telling me he doesn't want a picture with me. Take the phone. Like, I don't want to take a picture with him.
It's funny because like when he would have been known would have been 5 years prior, and those kids would have been like 2. Like,
yeah, right.
Where did it go after that?
Well, he agrees to help them.
Yeah.
Hulk agrees
And
to
then
help
they try
them.
to
Oh
do
yeah,
it.
they go do some testing.
They send. How did they put it? They sent time through Scott instead of Scott through time, and he came back old and young and old.
He came back as a kid, and then an old man, and then a baby.
And then he came back, and what did he say? Somebody peed on me or something.
Somebody
Somebody
peed in
peed in
my
my
pants.
He's like, I don't know if it
Somebody peed
was.
my pants.
I don't know if it was the young me or the old me, or if it was just me.
Yeah. Oh man, that was
And
good.
then they're all like, "What's what are we doing?" And then
I love how Hulk is
Professor's
like,
like,
I'm calling this a win.
Like, we got
This is a
it.
big win.
He
We
was
did
like,
it.
time travel. It's like, no, that's not. I mean, yes, but no. That's not exactly
was
how
so
that
good.
is what we would define it as. But it worked out, and then that's when we cut back to Tony trying to make it work.
Running time machine simulations on
And
his
then
holographic
Coffee table.
Coffee table.
Like, okay.
And then he does it, and then he's just kind of like
That was one of the
funniest.
when it happens at his face. That was
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, I'm a
He
genius.
blew his own mind.
Right.
Yeah.
And then his daughter's just like, shit. And
Oh,
he was
yeah.
like, you can't say that. He's like,
I'm just.
That's mommy's
What are you
word.
doing? I'm
He
just
said-
working on some shit. I mean,
Yeah,
stuff.
why are you still up? I'm working on shit.
He was like, what? Can you see I got shit going on? Like,
I was surprised about that word specifically. They used shit a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I was like, okay.
This is great.
Cap said bitch.
Yeah, that's
Cap did say bitch.
That's fine.
Yeah, but he still said it.
He did.
He's like, that's fine.
He said, well, in the context, that's like a one word type of son of a bitch. It's not just, he didn't just be like, Thanos, you a bitch. He was like, let's get that son of a bitch. It's one word.
Well, he still said the word bitch
Yeah.
in the movie. He's all about that language.
Well, when everybody's dead,
Language is
there's
out the
nobody to
window.
tell you to hey, watch it.
Yeah, they snapped all the sensors.
Somebody's got to cuss.
Yeah.
So Tony figures it out. They have their test where, Ant-Man, young, old, pissing himself. And then Cap kind of goes outside to think. And here comes Tony rolling up in a car that doesn't exist because it takes place in the future. But it was a cool car.
It was a cool car. Yeah. It was an Audi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
E-tron is what it was called.
Yeah. And that might be like a concept that I don't know
It's
about.
freaking
but,
dope.
Yeah. I imagine it's electric, even though it sounded like a real car.
Yeah, and he drove past them too. He's
Yeah, I
like,
thought
"Oh,
that was kind of weird.
and backed up. Kind of overshot it. This car
Yeah.
from the future.
And then probably the highlight of that whole section is him giving.
Cap the shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brings back the shield.
And they agreed to make it happen.
Get her done.
So they're building it.
I think, is this the part where we cut to Natasha going to meet up with Clint?
Yeah.
Because he
Turns
is
into a
killing
menace.
all
Yeah.
the mob
I mean,
bosses,
doing
man.
work.
He's
That was
doing
a pretty
mad work.
Cool.
That was a cool sequence. Yeah, we got to see Ronan, the Ronan version of Hawkeye, whooping ass and cutting people up, and that was dope.
Yeah.
And so she finds him in Hong Kong and talks him into coming back to help. And that's who they send back in time for their test.
Their test, yeah. Which was interesting because just to kind of set the stage here, they only had so many Pym particles to be able to do it.
Yeah, they had
And
enough for them all to make a round trip and 2 tests, and then Scott fucked one of
accidentally
them
does
up.
one and he goes, one test.
Yeah.
So then he's like, I'm not ready to do this. And then Hawkeye's like, I'll do it with my new tattoos and my new haircut and my new guns and the dun.
That's exactly how I said it. Too.
Exactly how he said it, yeah. So then that's pretty cool. He goes back, and it was really cool to see how they did it, because then he kind of was like, oh, it's like little portals. You just have to try to find the one that's yours, which is kind of weird that he kind of already
Yeah, it's like
knew
it's like he almost knew where to go though.
Yeah,
it's like
it
was
might
like
be
innate.
something one of those things where you're just drawn to the timeline you're trying to go to, or I guess technically like what they do on the Flash is like you have to see where you're trying to go, and then that's how you get there.
That might be, yeah.
So it's more like envisioning being at this particular time with these particular people, like that particular memory, and it kind of pulls you towards that, I guess. That'd be my only guess, because I don't know how he would have known to navigate the...
I didn't think he did anything.
Yeah, he might not have.
I think they set it all up to go... They sent him somewhere that he knew so he could grab something. Because the point was to... They didn't say it, but the point was to grab something so that they knew that they could bring something back, as much as why he had the glove. So I think they programmed something to send him somewhere he knew so he knew he could easily find something to pick up.
Right, yeah. That might have been, yeah. I mean,
because they also they had to do that when they actually did the mission because they sent everybody to different locations.
Right.
Specific locations.
Yeah, that's probably.
But
you're probably more right than we are.
Yeah, that was kind of hard to watch because
his family was alive.
right there, and then went before she comes and down, they yank him back.
Yeah, it had, but you know what? It was better for that way though, because the minute he'd seen her, it would have probably changed something. It could have changed something in him, but yeah, that was really, really cool. And yeah, he picked up that baseball glove, right? Yeah.
And it worked, I guess, was the main
Which it did too. I mean, the movie would have been real short if it didn't.
Yeah, they're like, oh, no, all right.
So, God, where do we go from here?
Well, then that's when they go and they make their plan.
Yeah, they start to get their plan. They decide they need to get, they're going to go back in time, and they need to find out where they can go to pick up the stones, because they're going to go back in time and steal the stones and build their own gauntlet, basically. And after using, their collective memories to remember where all of them had encountered the stones in the past, they find that they just need to send 3 groups of people to 3 different spots, because 3 stones were in New York at one time, and then there was like 2 in one, and then the Soul Stone was by itself.
Yeah.
So they divide everybody up, and everybody lines up.
We definitely got to give a shout out to Natasha, because she was the one that figured it out.
Yeah,
they were explaining to her who Doctor Strange was.
She's like, so if we go to New York at this time, at a certain time, all 3 of those stones are going to be
she was like, guys.
Yeah.
If you go to the right place, there's 3 stones in New York at the same time.
Yeah.
And they were once again, the 2 smartest guys on the fucking team were like, oh shit, that makes a whole lot of sense. Like, it's like, I always think that's always funny when they do that, when they make like the smartest people making it really convoluted, and then somebody's just like, why don't you just do this?
But that's kind of real though, because really intelligent people, because I'm not one of them, so I don't think like this, but it seems like really intelligent people try to come up with like really elaborate plans to try and fix shit, and then this a commonsensical person walks up and says, well, why don't you just push the power button? You know what I mean? Or something like that. Yeah. Did you plug it in?
Right.
So, I mean.
But then it turns out, then they go, okay, well, we got to discuss all the stones and where they saw them at. And I guess that's before she discovers that idea, but then we get this really cool scene with Thor kind of trying to explain.
Oh my God,
the ether to people.
Can we say real quick, he is so fat in this movie, y'all.
Yeah, that was a weird aspect to.
He has let himself go.
Oh, I guess we skipped the part where.
We did.
Hulk and Rocket go and get him from wherever the new Asgard is.
Yep.
Yeah. But basically they get there. He's drunk.
He's drunk and he's playing PS4.
Yeah, playing Fortnite with
Korg and Eat.
Yeah, well, we know they survived the snap, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And obviously Valkyrie survived.
Valkyrie survived. Yep.
And but then they eventually convince him to go back because Rocket tells him there's beer on his ship. He's like, "Cool, let's do it." But yeah, and then he's trying to explain the ether, and he's getting really emotional, kind of like a lot like me when I was drugged up from getting my wisdom teeth pulled.
Yeah.
Like he was just kind of back and forth, and he would start crying. But essentially, they come up with that plan and they figure everything out. And then because Hawkeye tested it, they knew it would work. And then they were like, here we go. This is about to happen. And then we kind of really start to pick up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we start the mission, which I thought was going to get really confusing. It was going to be hard to follow, but I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, they did a good job. Yeah, a really good job.
Explaining and then showing us in ways that wasn't confusing.
Yeah, they didn't make it all interstellar.
Yeah. Right. So we kick it off with Cap and Tony and Bruce going back to the battle for New York, and we get to see the Hulk just annihilate one of the Tauri.
Yeah, a little overboard if we're thinking about it.
Yeah, like he pummels him. Then he takes the truck or car and he smashes the car on the guy.
And then he jumps on the car.
God.
And they were kind of just looking at it like,
you should smash some stuff. And what did he say? He's like, I think it's a little derivative or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he said.
He basically like, saying, like, it's a little, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, he's like,
he just kind of smacks a car, crushes a bike.
Tosses a motorcycle.
So then he ends up going to talk to the, I can't think of what they call her, the Sorcerer Supreme, to try to get the Time Stone. And
I love what she does.
Yeah, and
she knocks a little banner out of Big Hulk.
Yeah, like she did to Doctor Strange. Yeah. Basically saying, I'm not going to give you the Time Stone because it's mine, and that's stupid.
I was glad that they found a way for Mark Ruffalo to be in the movie, actually in the movie, instead of just being in mocap the whole time.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I thought the Professor Hulk looked really good.
Yeah, he did.
In terms of Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, it looked like him, but green and buff.
Yeah. Because they already had a good job making the Hulk look like him.
Yeah.
Way better than they ever did in any other movie.
Oh God, yeah.
But this was the perfect balance, even more. Right there in the middle.
I agree completely. Yeah.
But I wonder, which we never saw in the movie, really, can he get bigger?
You know,
they didn't show that in the movie, really, because he was always
a lot about Professor Hulk from the comic books. So yeah, that's a good question. Do you know, Warren?
I mean, he was pretty much just as big as he's been when he was regular.
I don't think so. I don't
he
think
looked a little smaller.
I don't think he was nearly as big.
I don't think he was that small.
He was
because there's the scene when he was.
I mean, he was kind of more fit and lean, but he wasn't like that small.
When he was in the house with when they went and got Thor, I was like, oh, he's not very big at all. Like he's like two guys. Is it like
that's still pretty big.
Yeah, but the Hulk's like 10 guys. Like he's gigantic.
Thanos was like 10 guys.
They were almost the same size.
Yeah, I just don't think
they were.
I don't think
they were almost.
I didn't notice that big of a difference.
I don't think the Hulk would have been able to sit down at that diner table when they went and got him.
I will say that when Hulk gave Scott his tacos, I thought that was super cute.
I mean, it's not the Hulk. It's Bruce Banner.
It's Professor Hulk.
But it's not the Hulk giving him tacos.
It's Professor Hulk.
I'm not a time travel expert in general, but I feel like at this table, I can be a time travel representative.
You can be anything you want at this table, John.
Because I've watched a lot of movies that have it. I've studied it. Like, what would really happen?
Okay.
I've really dug into things like this.
Okay.
They did as well of a job as they could have, especially with her explaining what would happen if you did all this.
I was just glad they took the time to even explain it.
Yeah, I am too.
They made it make sense without it actually making sense. Because you can't make time travel make sense. It's impossible. It doesn't work. That's why there is no such thing as time travel.
Yeah.
Or is
there? Isn't.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
We don't know that.
Yeah. Because if there was, we could be just in a branch of a different dimension, in a branch of
like
another dimension
where
a branch of another
superheroes
dimension.
aren't real.
Yeah.
What time travel is.
But they explained it in a way that everybody already thinks about in the time travel theories, that if you do this, you're going to branch off another reality where everybody's still dead.
Right.
And then another reality where you actually won, instead of just keeping the one reality. And she said, well, if you return them all back when you took them, everything's fine.
Right.
So I'm glad that they did that instead of just...
Well, that, and I loved how they debunked the theories that normal time travel has been shown to us early before we even got the explanation, which was when everybody was like, if you go back in time, then you fix the problem. And then Bruce was like, if you go to the past, then your past is now your present and your future was your past. And then if you go back to the future, then your future is now your present, and your past is your, you know what I mean? Like the way he explained it is like time travel does not work. Like you go to the past, you fix some shit, then it changes the future. When you change your time where you are, that is now your current time, and your future is now your past, or however he explained it. But it made a whole lot of sense. Yeah, because it was like that shit.
Because he was talking to Rhodey and Scott, and they were all like, "Well, I've seen Back to the Future."
Yeah, they were all these time travel
somewhere in time. They were going all these.
And then he goes, then Scott goes, "Die Hard." Wait, no, that's not
one of them, is it? No.
But they did explain very well, and I like that she was like, "Look, if you take this time stone, boom," and then it showed this alternate timeline where all of the evil comes through because she doesn't have the Infinity Stone to protect it. And then Bruce was like, "Wait, if I put it back, then it's like it was never gone."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Okay, well, I'll take it."
Yeah, not only did they explain it, but they gave us like a very clear visual representation.
It was great. It was really cool.
I almost shit myself when she did it. She was like, "Line." I was like, "That's a timeline."
Right.
What the fuck?
Most movies won't even
touch it.
They just do. Even the Flash show, they're just like, "Yeah, here's how time travel works," even though it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like, what? Why are you doing it? Doesn't make sense.
Time travel is stupid.
Yeah, that's why it can get so bad in movies, but they really handled it really well.
Yeah, they didn't do
movie.
a whole lot with it, and they didn't do I think the one person at one point maybe said something about not being able to talk to yourself or see yourself, but we got that shit anyway.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we'll keep it going, and we have Ant-Man, Cap, and Tony trying to get the Tesseract and the Scepter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really cool, like, kind of spy mission type thing.
I like the little homage to the elevator sequence in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
That was cool.
I thought that was going down.
I thought we were going to see it again, man. That was awesome.
But I would say what was almost even better was him tricking them.
Exactly.
Yes. When he goes in and goes, "Hail Hydra." I was like, "Oh, this smart son of a bitch."
Yeah. That was brilliant. Exactly. I loved that. I loved that so much.
Because they literally reenacted the entire Winter Soldier. Like, he got on the thing, and then they all were kind of looking at the
one guy grabbed his gun and unbuttoned it and everything.
And then it was like, "We can't. I already talked to the secretary. You just need to give me the thing." And he was like, "I don't think we can do that. I got to call." And he was like, "There's no need. Hail Hydra." And I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, and they just gave it to him.
And he walks off, and then Tony and Ant-Man messed their part up, and they almost do it. But it was also cool to see that, because we got to see aspects of those moments that we didn't see in the other movies, like them trying to give the Tesseract and like what happened right after they caught Loki. Yeah. That stuff was really cool.
Yeah, when they were like all in the room collecting everything, like it's behind the scenes of the Avengers movie.
It's the kind of stuff that we see on like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
You know, like that's what those guys do.
Right.
They come in and get all that stuff. And then they were like, "Who's that? These Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." And he's like, "Well, actually, they're Hydra, but we don't know it yet." And he was like, and Scott was like, "You don't know it? They look like bad guys."
Yeah, that was funny as hell. He's like, "They just look like bad guys."
But so their mission was to get the Tesseract back. So he goes into his like arc reactor thing, and unplugs the thing, and then he just goes into
drops,
goes into like cardiac arrest, basically, and then Thor has to like give him a little shock.
Yeah, Thor sets the hammer on it and just, I didn't even know that was gonna work.
But then Loki kind of sees the case move, so he's aware something's happening, and then Tony gets it, and it's all going well, and he's getting ready to leave, and then Hulk smashes through the door because he had to go through the stairs, and he was pissed because they wouldn't let him run the elevator with him on the way down, and then it sends the case back, it opens up, and the Tesseract comes out, and then Loki gets the Tesseract, and then he poofs away with it. So we might get Loki back.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll save
that kind of stuff.
Because I have another problem with the time travel stuff that we can get to later. That's another thing, because there's a lot of questions about, like, Captain America's. Oh, well, that's at the end. We'll just wait till, because there's a lot of factors that still do not make sense.
Yeah, we get that, so we don't know what's going on with Loki, but then they have to figure out another way to
get the Tesseract,
which they do, and it's pretty cool how they do it, you know, and we get emotional ties there.
Right,
both Cap and Tony.
That was so good. I'm glad they did that, because Tony encounters his dad from 1970 before Tony's even born. that was really cool because he gets to have like a moment with his dad that he never had before. Not just because he wasn't born, but because it was Tony's a different kind of person now than he was when he knew his dad and when his dad had passed away,
right.
Because he wasn't the man that he is. So it was really cool to see that.
Yeah, and then Cap gets the PIM particles, and then he ends up as a result of trying to not get caught,
right?
Because they kind of figure out that these two guys are probably not supposed to be here. He ends up next to Peggy's office, not necessarily in her office, I guess.
Yeah, it looked like it looked like she had like a big two separate offices. Yeah, but yeah, he does,
and he gets to see her for a little bit. And,
I thought she was gonna see him,
and I thought I was gonna faint.
I did. I thought she was gonna see him because
she was like right there.
Right there, yeah. He was standing
like, hey,
right behind that glass in a dark room, and she didn't see him, but they were like a foot away from each other. It looked like like they were that close.
War Machine and Nebula teamed up to go to Morag, I believe is what it's called.
Yeah, I think it's called.
And that's where they get the Power Stone, because that's where Peter Quill initially finds it.
He just knocks it in the fuck
yeah.
He's like, oh, he's an idiot? I got it.
It was War Machine that knocked him out, right? That was too funny, man.
He's sitting there dancing.
He's
like, oh, so he's an idiot.
Yeah, it's so funny because, they show up at the time when it's the opening sequence of Guardians of the Galaxy.
But the thing that's really cool about it is, like, we got a chance where some people got to see characters that they never seen before.
Right.
Even though it was like a high tension situation, they had to be like perfect. That was the first time Rhodey ever got to see
Star-Lord,
and he's just like,
this guy's a jackass.
Stupid. I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but I knew that because certain people had certain things go wrong, that they were gonna have the biggest fuck up because it was Nebula somehow. Which I guess this kind of makes sense.
Yeah, they detect another nebula because she's connected to the network. She's
connected to herself. So I guess that makes sense.
Is it like Wi-Fi?
I guess so. Like super ultra Wi-Fi.
I guess because she's the same person, you're like, oh, there's two of them.
But like, what was she connected to? Like the ship? Like I don't get.
I don't know. Yeah, I wish they could have explained that a little bit because. But I'm sure what they're inferring is that with all of the technological enhancements he's put on Nebula, trying to make her perfect, one of those enhancements was clearly some sort of tracking device type of thing.
Yeah.
And since she shows up in that timeline, and they end up detecting her, two of her.
I was gonna say something that was inside of her was going haywire because there was two of her in the same place.
Well,
that's what happened. Because she was fine, and then her eye was just like,
and then it made exactly the same noise too. That was very good.
And he was about to fuck her up.
Yeah.
Just having a malfunction.
Yeah, just having a malfunction.
Was like, we don't really know what's going on with her face. Please don't kill her. So then he plugs her up.
Yeah, and then
that's how they were
the other memories from the other nebula start uploading.
And that's when they figured it out, and then they were like, "Oh, just knock her out."
Yeah,
and then they just cleared all that up. They were like, "Can you tap into her?" And he was just like, "Yeah," and I was like,
"Yeah, I think so." Yeah, I'm buying that. It's the same technology; it hasn't changed.
Yeah, but it's just like
it's not like they got a different Wi-Fi password.
You don't know that she might have changed it. It's been like 20 years.
It's been like 5.
Hey, don't use numbers.
Oh, 10, I guess.
Don't you just use the number first?
Never mind.
It's half of what I did.
Yeah.
And we get to see Gamora again as a result of all of this and their kind of relationship, how it really was back then, and how Thanos treated Nebula.
Yeah.
And it was rough.
Yeah. Nebula had a hard life, man. Like she's very, very she's very much one of the would be like a sympathetic villain, you know what I mean? Which of course in this movie she's not a villain. Well, she is sometimes, depending on which nebula we're talking about, because there's 2 nebulas in the movie now.
I had a moment where she took that faceplate off and then put it on herself, and I was like, I wouldn't have even noticed.
You know,
it's like she's like, I'm gonna disguise myself as myself, but I look a little different. So she takes that faceplate and puts it on herself. I was like, you would have just been able. I would have died.
Yeah.
Because I would have been like, oh, I didn't know that was new.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been paying that much attention.
The problem is, if this is one of the things that I wish they would have done. It's not, I'm nitpicking at this movie. I wish they wouldn't.
You have to.
I wish they wouldn't have shown her taking it. Because when she came back, I was like, that's not her. I knew it the whole time, and I was like, it would have been really cool for her to just show up and then be like, "Oh, sabotage!" I'm like, "Fuck, it's not her!" Like, you know what I mean? But because we knew it wasn't her, we were like, "Oh, she's gonna bring him to the thing. He's gonna show up, and they're gonna fight." So we kind of knew that, but I guess they didn't want it to be like confusing, so they were just like, "She's gonna take it." Cause
they were trying to handle other confusing things.
Yeah, they were trying to
which they had enough to handle. So
So I get why they did it, but I think it just would have made a better plot twist had they not shown her.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of agree with you there. That would have been kind of dope.
It would have been a really big, massive reveal because you're like, "Oh, they got it," and he's gonna snap. He fixed it. It's over. Oh shit! Like that. But so basically, then we back obviously, and then we deal with the Natasha and Clint situation of going to the Soul Stone, which was kind of predictable because there's only two of them who have to give up something to get the Soul Stone, and then we have the tug of war battle between these two people. Who
this was so good.
And I like, how because when you go into it, you're like, well, there's no science to it. Like Natasha has more to make up for than Clint does, so you send her. But then they were like, no, remember he was Ronin and he killed a bunch of people, so that was like their leveling of characters to make you go, they both could sacrifice and they both have a redemption in sacrificing themselves. But it also to me made no sense for him to sacrifice himself because he had a family to go back to, and
she didn't know.
Yeah, but
but that come on, like she like
I got you.
Bye.
Yeah. that was emotional though, and it got really emotional because we were talking about it earlier off podcast, obviously. And because it was like, no, I'm gonna die. No, I'm gonna die. No, I'm gonna die. And then they're all trying to sacrifice each other. And it got really emotional that last time when Natasha forced the issue because he jumps off. And you said it because I thought the same thing you did when it was all in slow motion and he was jumping off. I was like, oh, fuck. Well, Hawkeye's sacrificing himself.
Well, I was also in the mindset, like, how many times are they going to pull the switch? And they did it twice. She's like, I'm going. And then he, like, throws her down. And then he's like, no, I'm going. And then she shocks him. Yeah. He's like, no, I'm going. And then he rips it
off. He, like, almost kills her with an explosive arrow. I was like, you almost ruined the whole thing.
So we're like 4 switches deep. And then he's like, the slow-mo kicks in. I was like, okay, it's Hawkeye.
This is it.
I really, in my brain, when he's running in slow motion, I'm just hearing like, bitch. And she's like, he must not know who the fuck I am. And she's like,
what she does is so smart though because she forces the issue. She uses a little what would it be called? Like, there you go. What was it again?
Grapple.
Oh, you should say something different.
But yeah, she shoots a grapple.
A rat
hole.
A rope hanging thingy.
But yeah, she shoots the grapple. And grabs him, attaches the grapple to him, and then they just both hang.
Yeah, basically it's like either we both die or I die.
So he had to let her go.
But then he should have been like, but I can do, and shoots like an arrow that connects his grapple to her. And he just lets go.
But he tried to reach. He tried to reach down and grab something. Like maybe he had like a trick, but she was like,
no, he was trying to grab her.
Oh, was yeah, you're probably right. He was trying to get a better grip. Yeah. But yeah, she forced the issue. She's
she's
smart. She's a smart one.
Lady that didn't want to live anymore because this is to wipe the red.
And then of course we get to see good acting by Jeremy Renner, who is a really underappreciated actor because he got very emotional and it was really
2 emotional scenes in this movie.
Yeah, he did. Well, this was a tough movie for the character Hawkeye.
Actually, 3 emotional scenes because after that they all come back.
Oh yeah,
and they're like, "It worked. Is everybody here?"
And they're all like, "Well, Black Widow's."
So my thing is, so y'all just had no idea that somebody wasn't coming back because
they didn't know. They weren't with him. They weren't with Thanos when he sacrificed Gamora.
Yeah, but she established that at the beginning of the movie, didn't she?
When
they were talking about how he got the Soul Stone.
I can't remember when she established it.
Because when they were all breaking down at what point in time they encountered it, she brought up the fact that he killed her and that's how he got the Soul Stone.
I can't remember when she established it though. I can't remember if it was at the beginning of the plan or if she mentioned it just to Rhodey.
Or maybe she didn't mention it until...
Maybe she mentioned it just to Rhodey. I can't remember.
I thought she just mentioned it to Gamora.
Well, no, maybe... I think she brought it up after they got back.
Yeah,
right when they got back, and they were like, "What's happening?" And I think she brought it up.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think she says, "Well, Thanos and Gamora went to go get the Soul Stone, and only Thanos came back. What do you think happened?" Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good information to like give out before.
Well,
just hanging on to that shit.
Would it have been good information? Well, yeah. I mean,
yeah, because
they would have been prepared.
Well, the only thing that would have done was messed up who would have gone where, because then like Cap would be like, "Well, I'm going to I'm gonna sacrifice."
Cap is that kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just would have messed up everything.
But
else.
I don't think that fall would have killed him.
Probably not. Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah, really? It doesn't look that far this time. But I guess
it wasn't.
Is.
She was like halfway down.
Yeah, well, for a human, it doesn't have to be.
That's very true. That's very true. Yeah.
And maybe it's one of those things where like it doesn't matter how far you fall as long as you're sacrificed. So
yeah,
you
right.
Hit the ground.
There is definitely
like, you just have to be in the.
Yeah, there is
circle.
definitely a cosmical, kind of thing going on there.
So then we have all the stones, and then Tony builds a gauntlet.
Yeah, he builds a dope looking gauntlet
to hold the stones, and then they decide that.
Like he needed to say, he built a gauntlet not to hold the stones.
He may have just like you never know. He maybe just built a dope gauntlet and then was like, "Look how dope this is."
Instead, they created 6 different colored Hot Wheels to put them.
But anyway, he does it. It holds the stones, and then they kind of have an argue back and forth about who needs to wield it and snap.
Because Thor wants to.
He wants to do it because he's a god. He's like, I'm the only one really that can handle it. And then Bruce is like, actually, it's me because I have gamma radiation in my soul.
Yeah.
So let me do it. And then he does it, and he kind of...
And it fucks him up.
It fucks him up, but he reverses
But he does it.
But it works.
Yeah, he does it.
Which was crazy. I didn't think it was going to be that simple. I thought it was going to be like...
Oh, yeah, it was simple and not because he struggles with it. You know, he puts it on, and it's clearly fucking him up.
Right.
Like it's hurting him bad.
And that
it's crippling him.
Is a very. This is why the Russo brothers are so good, because what that did for the viewer, at least in my opinion, it really shows you how powerful Thanos is
a bad
because
motherfucker.
He puts it on. He's just like, all right, I'm a badass.
Yeah.
And Hulk is like, I think I'm okay. Snap! I'm dead. Like,
yeah, it jacks him
Another reason that he's not like full Hulk. He's
That's
right
true.
in the
Maybe
middle.
Regular Hulk would have been able to
at least handle it better than
he would have handled.
did.
I think regular Hulk would have handled it better, but it still would have fucked him up.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, because it did fuck Thanos up.
Yeah,
twice.
Exactly. Just as a Hawkeye says, I think it worked.
Well, he says, he's on the phone. He's talking. He says hi to his wife, and then Scott walks out to the window, and he's like looking at everything being nice again outside and everything, and then he's just like, guys, I think it, boom, and a fucking missile hits the thing.
Straight up thought he was dead.
I did too. That explosion happened 8 inches from his face,
and I was like, that man has to have the most impressive reflexes in the world,
or something,
because that's like, guys, I think it booms, clicks the button. And he's small and he's alive. Like that's insane.
That was insane. Yeah,
that's crazy. Because like when it happened, I was like, "Holy!"
I was too. I thought he was dead.
The explosion is like as close to him as this mic is to my mouth right now. That's like it. Boom! Impact! Boom! And he was just
savage.
Gone. And I was like, well, okay, he's just dead. We're just going to start killing people.
I guess the Ant-Man series is over. I was like, 2 fucking movies. All right, let's go.
I was like, I guess this is the Game of Thrones style. Of Avengers. They're getting ready to start killing people. They're just going to start dying.
The shitteth hath hitteth the fanneth.
And so basically, the first person we really kind of get to see their situation is, I guess, Hawkeye. After we see Hulk and then it's like, Hawkeye.
Yeah, where was he?
He just fell underneath.
Yeah, I don't know where he was.
Yeah, like he's in like a
He was in the same room when it happened, but that was a hell of an explosion because
so
it sent people to fucking Wisconsin and shit.
Yeah.
And we got to see his first experience with that army that they fought in Infinity War.
Yeah, like I like the exit. He gets to the top and he cuts his rope and a
thing at the same time.
Whatever they're called in half. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and then
You're
I like
cool.
how they they show you their training and his thought process as a human, because then he turns around immediately ready to fight the next thing, but there's no more, and then he rests. He's like, oh, okay, I can sit down for a second.
And then plot twist, it was Nebula, not our Nebula, bad Nebula.
Yeah, and he thinks it's good Nebula.
It was Nebula with a gold faceplate thing.
And he's like, hey, I know you.
And then she's like, no, you don't.
And then she's like, hey, father. And he's like, oh, shit. And
Yeah,
then,
she picks up the gauntlet and calls dad.
and then she's got him at gunpoint, and then Gamora walks in because she goes back to where our Nebula is and basically asks her what happens to us.
Yeah, she wants us to know what their relationship is like and her future, and she tells.
And I thought that was really cool that even in that moment they still kind of had a sisterly moment.
Yeah.
And then they go basically save Hawkeye, and then Nebula kills herself. So.
Yeah, she shoots the bad version of herself.
Good version shoots the bad version.
Yeah.
The good version shoots the bad version. Once again, so are you now.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought the minute she pulled that trigger,
she was gonna
up, and I thought she was gonna dust.
And I'm like, shouldn't you? Because you no longer exist.
I don't know.
But maybe because she killed herself in the same timeline as herself, she didn't really kill herself. I don't know. The point is,
I think because she's mostly robotic, she could be repaired technically and still be.
This is very true. Yeah, we don't know that it actually killed her; it just incapacitated her.
But then we get Ant-Man on a nice little heroic adventure to save Hulk and Rhodey and Thor with Cap and Tony standing there, and they're kind of looking at Thanos just kind of chilling. He's not doing
he's
anything.
just sitting down. Yeah,
and you knew we were getting ready to get a head-to-head, and basically they're like, it's a trap. Well, Thor's like, it's a trap. And then Tony's like, I don't really give a shit. I want to fight him.
He's like, I don't care.
And then he's like, well, let's kill him proper this time. And I was like, y'all about to get worked. Like, don't you understand this? But they did their thing for the most part.
Yeah, it was a good fight sequence.
Yeah, Thor double wielding.
That was crazy.
Dope. That was pretty sweet. And for them, like, he did a lot of work with it.
Yeah,
it was a pretty even fight overall.
Yeah, they all really were
between the three of them versus Thanos.
But I like that we got to see the Trinity kind of really go at it,
right? Even
Thanos.
Though it was Fat Thor,
It was Fat Thor,
but he made it happen. And there was really cool tag team sequences, like when Tony lands and he's like, "Shoot me, Thor!" and then he shoots him with the lightning, and then he supercharges him. He's like, bzzz. But then Thanos is like, was on the drill team or something, because he was like, spin really fast, like, and I was like, holy shit, like, you could slice an infinite amount of meat with that, like, just it was like a blender. I was like, that's crazy. They were really, that was like heavy hitters. Like, that's one of those things like watching Batman in the Batman v Superman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want no part of this. Like, I'm good. I'm gonna stay over here while y'all bang. But they were really going at it, and we got some really good fight scenes out of it. We had a moment where I thought they were going to do the deal from the comics, because Thanos grabbed Tony, and then in one of the comics, he rips him in half. And so he grabbed him by his face and his leg, and he was about to rip him in half. And I was like, they are not going to do that in this movie. And then Thor, like, throws the hammer and then knocks Tony out of his hand.
Yeah.
But I was like, you do not ever tease that. Like, that's like the scariest shit I've ever seen in a comic book. But they were like, kind of like, I remember when this shit happened? And then, then they didn't do it. And then Thor kind of goes at him one-on-one.
Yeah, what part you were just talking about was a cool part to see, because it's when... I don't know which one Thor throws up in the air, but he throws it up in the air, and baseball style, and then he swings and hits it. And I was like, that's gonna hurt. And then he just deflects it with Tony.
Yeah,
and then Tony goes flying. I was like, yo, that hurt.
He threw Mjolnir up in the air, and then he used Stormbreaker to hit it, and which was still pretty cool. And then
they set it up to be like, well, Thor's gonna die the way he tried to kill Thanos.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and like you see it start to go into his chest, and you're freaking out because you're like, oh, this is who dies. Because the whole movie, you're like, who dies in this movie?
Yeah.
It's already Scarlet Widow.
Black Witch.
Black Widow. We already lost her. Who's next? And you think this is gonna happen, and then the greatest thing ever to happen happens.
Oh God, it's so good.
It just happens. It just flies and hits him. It's like.
And you think Thor's about to die, and then you see the hammer just lift up. You're like, well, who is picking up this hammer? Because Thor's dying.
Oh, dying, yeah. And then he throws it.
And then you see
back.
Captain, yeah.
He throws it. And
You see it hit him, and then it comes back into Cap's. Yeah.
And then Cap's like, prepare yourself.
And then it was real quick, but Thor's like, I knew
it. Because Cap moved it.
Yeah.
He almost
and then that
picked it
goes
up.
back to our conversation we were having one day. We were like, we wonder if Cap could have picked it up. He just chose not to.
Right. My point with that conversation is there a point where strength outdoes worthy, and if Captain America was just that strong? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like if you're that strong, you can be able to pick it up even if you're not worth it. It's still going to be heavy. You can't use it, but you could at least shove it aside.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with when he moved it. He just was putting so much work into it that he did actually move it.
I also look more deeper into that theory of if he just chose not to pick it up because because of the way he acts after he moves it. He goes,
now seeing him use it, we know that's what happened.
Yeah.
Now, but
or do we?
Yeah, because he said I knew it. That was the payoff to go back to that moment.
Yeah.
So because the way, if you think about it, the way Cap acted when he moved it, and then he was kind of like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Right. I was like, that's like one of those like I could have, but I'm just gonna be like, I couldn't pick it up. Yeah. And so, but then he, it was really cool. We got to see him wield it with the shield.
Cap was doing work too, man.
That was like my favorite.
That was awesome
in the entire movie because he was just,
he was laying into Thanos with Mjolnir, dude. It was dope.
And it was like, it was just some of the dopest sequence of stuff we've seen.
Well, yeah, that Thanos does his evil villain speech.
Right, yeah.
Actually, when they panned out, I was like, you were just as far away as like Shazam was in that scene where he couldn't hear.
Yeah.
I thought they were like, because I was like, oh, he's about to die, because I thought Thanos was like over top of him.
I did
and
too
then it
for a
zooms
second.
out, and I'm like, oh, he's really far away.
Yeah,
But he threw, that last hit launched Captain America really far away.
And then Cap straps the half shield up and he's
all right, let's do this.
I got my hammer. I'm about to bang. I'll take on this army. And I thought, I heard you say it because you thought he was gonna be like, I can do this all day.
I thought
it was gonna happen too.
And then you just hear Sam in the comms, Cap.
That was so cool.
As that's happening, Thanos said, I'm gonna decimate this world, and now I'm gonna enjoy
he says now
it.
I'm gonna enjoy it exactly.
And then we see just the biggest army coming.
Yeah,
all the ships drop, just unloading, and you're just like, oh fuck. I was like, maybe the end of this movie is they still lose. Like I was like, what? How?
Yeah, that would be bold.
Like you said, they remind you, oh, everybody's back.
Yeah, because they come walking through, and then we see how powerful Doctor Strange is because he's just like,
well, it was him and
Wong.
Yeah,
Wong. And there were other sorcerers.
Yeah, there were other.
It wasn't just the two. It wasn't even the two of them.
I'm giving it to Doctor Strange.
No, it was all of them.
The point is, they brought a fucking army.
Well, at first I was like, we're gonna need more than Black Panther and his little army. Do you not see what's happening right now?
Yeah.
This is just one portal. We need more.
Oh, we got more though.
Yeah, and then like 47 opened up. I was like, okay. This
it was so cool. All of the reveals were all really dope, man, and seeing everybody pop out in different ways. Spider-Man jumping out. And, I know you. I saw you. I looked over and I saw you.
I was like, yes, the only moment that I've waited for. And but it was really cool. And then we had this all-out battle, which really reminded me of Secret Wars, because that's basically what Secret Wars was. They
kind of
all heroes versus all the villains put on a planet. Mm-hmm. Like, just fight. That's basically what it reminded me of. But it was a really dope battle. We got a lot of team ups and a lot of cool stuff happening. But obviously, it still came down to the stones. And
we also got Rescue.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was
pretty-
super
that was
cool.
really dope,
Gwyneth
right?
Paltrow put on her anniversary present.
Finally.
Yeah, Pepper Potts put on her anniversary present that Tony
she
gave
looked
her.
good in it
She
too.
looked
Yeah,
damn
that was-
good.
that was
And
pretty
she
She looked
handled the suit
badass.
pretty well. She
Yeah.
was out there getting it in.
It was dope.
But
And then they played
hot potato.
or relay race.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
With
handing it off.
They were handing it, and so Hawkeye started it off, and he's like, Cap, what do we do? And Cap's like, get as far away from here. And I like how they kind of was like the stones were a factor, but it gave everybody out there on the field a reason to kind of pay attention to everything around them and what was happening and keeping those stones safe. And then they pass off to Black Panther, and he's like, parkour all over people's faces and stuff. And then eventually he gets caught up by Ebony Maw, and then Spider-Man's like, yo, I'm back, give me the stones.
His part was the best part of all that.
when he lands on the Valkyrie.
Instant kill.
Well, just Spider-Man.
Just
Yeah,
when
it's
Spider-Man
like,
sees
yeah, it's like my
the
favorite of that is like when he lands on the Valkyrie horse and then he's like, "Hey, nice to meet you." Oh God! But basically, yeah, he keeps it for a while and then he lands and does the insta kill thing, and then the legs are just doing work.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
god!
was like, "Oh my
There
God!"
were fucking so many soldiers
Yeah.
up, dude.
I got this.
By
I
the
got
time it
this.
shows him again, he's like on a mountain of dead bodies and shit.
So I got this. I got this. But essentially, who did he give it to?
I think he gives it to.
'Cause I don't know if he gave it to anybody at first. I know Scarlet Witch shows up. and
Captain
saves-
Marvel. He gives it to Captain Marvel.
Yeah, well, he keeps it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he's
before
eventually.
because they start dropping bombs and
Yeah.
he just
Yeah, they
takes
start
cover.
opening fire. And
Yeah,
that's
but
when
there's
all
a-
the wizards put the shields up and stuff.
Yeah, but that was after Scarlet Witch shows up, and I think
Yeah, it doesn't
I
work,
think he was
yeah.
getting overwhelmed, and then she saves him, and then she fights Thanos 1-on-1, and they kind of show off her power,
Yeah.
and she was really going in on.
Yeah,
it.
she does some work. She
Yeah.
does some work on
I
Thanos.
love she's like, you took everything from me. He's like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah, I don't know who you are. Yeah, that was funny.
And she's
Yeah.
like, "You will," and then she really starts doing
Yeah.
work, and he's like, "Blow everybody up."
Yeah, he does. He says, concentrate fire or something like
he
that.
says he says fire, and he's like, "What about
But our
soldiers?"
troops, he's like, do it. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
give a fuck. Kill everything.
and then the ship's doing work too, and so like everybody's trying to stay alive, and then
Yeah.
Captain Marvel comes in because they stopped shooting.
Yeah,
at
they start
them.
shooting at the
And
sky.
then everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And then I turned to Ryan. I was just like, Captain Marvel!" And she's just like,
She flies through the ship like
Yeah.
3 times.
yeah. She was like, "I'm so sorry, I'm late." I mean, just tears the ship up. So once again, she shows why she's the most powerful hero we have.
If she is good at anything,
It's fucking up shit.
It's
Yeah.
fucking shit.
She's known to fuck up a ship. I tell you.
Yeah.
But she does all that, and she lands in front of Peter Parker, and he's kind of feet up with
Yeah, what
this
does
shit.
he say? He says, "Hi, I'm Peter.
Hi, I'm
I'm
Peter
Peter
Parker."
Parker." She says, "Hi, Peter Parker. Got something for me?"
Yeah. And then we get a really cool kind of woman empowerment moment because then she's like, they're like, we got to get those stones to the little quantum van.
Right.
And then they're like,
yeah.
we don't know how she's gonna get there by herself. And then and they're like, she's not by herself. And then all these female superheroes come together, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, that's so
it was cool. It was really cool.
And then they all kind of help her get there, and then she flies around and does her cool thing. And then Thanos is like, yeah, no, fuck that. He just throws the sword into the van.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna end all this shit. And then him and Captain Marvel kind of go at it, and that was kind of
It was a good fight. It was a good
They were
little
really
fight.
fighting. She was kind of fucking up. He's going back, and then he like headbutts her, and she's
And
like,
she don't even
and she was
move.
like, bitch.
yeah, when she like goes Super Saiyan and she's just holding him there, and they're just like making eye contact and just like goes to headbutt, and she's like, nah.
Yeah,
And then he goes,
phaser,
and
man.
then she starts to like kind of break his fingers almost,
Right.
and then he was like, "Fuck this shit." He took the power stone and he was like, "Yeah,"
That
and then
was
she was like,
yeah.
"Oh shit!"
Yeah, he
But-
knocked her into Captain Marvel too.
Yeah, but that
for a
was really,
second.
it was really smart of him to do that.
Yeah, it was.
And then obviously we had that one key interaction of Doctor Strange and Tony, and he was like, "Yo, is this the one where we win?" And he was like, "If I tell you, it won't happen."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I kind of knew then that what was going to happen.
Well, yeah, that was his way of those were two different interactions. So that happens like halfway through the fight, and then this one, Tony's beaten down. He's laying.
No,
there.
I know. I'm just talking. I was just bringing it up because we haven't discussed it.
And he's just laying down, and he looks at Doctor Strange, who is now holding in water from coming in and drowning everybody. Yeah. Which is kind of, I was like, I think they just had to give him something to do so that they couldn't just win. Like, they had to occupy him. Like, yeah, he's over here, the water's coming. Like, he's
because before that, he was doing work. He was
so,
people.
They stick true to time travel, which is, he didn't tell him the first time because that's not when he tells him, because Doctor Strange has seen this play out.
Right.
He doesn't tell him until the second time.
Yeah, he just says one.
And so finally, Tony's like, "Come on, man! Like, give me an answer. Like, we're about to die. He's got him again." And he's like,
"He just holds up one."
And Tony's like, "All right, then.
Well, yeah.
Let me go do this."
Because we had a really cool sequence.
What he does is so smooth too, though. I love it.
We had a cool sequence right before that where he gets the gauntlet. He tries to put it on. Then Captain Marvel comes back, and she's like, "No!" And she tries to take it off. Yeah. And he's like, "Get off of me!" And he put it on. And I think somebody else does something to kind of stop him. And then we get that moment. And then Tony goes up to grab it, but he wasn't going to try to take the gauntlet. He just wanted the fucking stones.
Yeah, he takes
and
the
that was
stones.
really smart. And then it was really funny, too, because then Thanos is like, snap. And then nothing happened. It was kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah, and he looks at the back of the gauntlet, and there's no stones on it at all.
And then
Tony has them.
And then he goes. Then Thanos is all like, "I am inevitable." Oh,
yeah.
Because he says, "I am inevitable." Then he snaps, and nothing happens. And then Tony's like, "I am Iron Man." And then he snaps, and then I cried.
Oh my god, he snaps, and you see all the bad guys just start turning to dust, and Thanos is watching it. Mm-hmm. I love how they did that. He's watching all of his whole army, and everything just turned to dust. And then he sits down, and he's like breathing very heavily, you know. And then slowly he starts to turn to dust.
Right.
And of course, we know how powerful the gauntlet is, and how powerful the stones are, you know. And then it shows freaking Iron Man. Well, I call him Iron Man for a second. Shows Tony.
Well, he said that's who he was.
Yeah, he says he's Iron Man. And it shows Tony, and like his whole right side of his body is just crisp.
Yeah.
Just freaking burnt to hell, and he's barely alive. And it's so painful to watch, man.
And the way they did, because like Brody shows up first, like his best friend shows up, and he's just kind of like, "Yeah, you're done." Like he knew it as soon as he saw him. He just kind of pats him on the head, like, "Good job, way to fall." I was really hoping that Cap would have walked up to him and been like, "I thought you were just gonna cut the wire," like, and you know what I mean, like that little moment of like, "You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play."
Yeah.
You know, but he didn't cut the wire. He laid down on the wire so that everybody else could live.
Yeah.
But they, we got him.
Everybody gets to say their goodbyes.
Yeah. Oh God, Peter.
Once again. Yeah. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man.
He's the best actor of Spider-Man. I don't know if he's the best Spider-Man yet. We got to see him in this Far From Home movie.
You get Peter's goodbye, and then you get Pepper Potts, which I think was better.
That was a really
because
good
her look at it was like, you did it, like you're done.
Yeah,
this is okay. Like she was more okay with it, so that he was okay while he was dying. Yeah. And then when he was finally she was like, now I can be. Yeah, I can be vulnerable with it. She was being strong in that moment to comfort Tony.
Yeah, because she tells him while he's dying that you can rest now.
Yeah, she's like, you did good. And I was like,
and then he dies.
Right.
I bawled.
I really thought her performance right there was top notch. Now we go
to the funeral, which was awesome.
It was awesome.
It was emotional as hell.
And then there were some confusing things.
Okay.
Maybe I just don't know, but there was that Asian kid with Hawkeye. Who's that? Like an Asian teenager. Did he pick somebody up in Tokyo?
I don't know.
Did you guys not see that?
I guess I didn't notice. I didn't notice.
I saw his family.
So he had his family, and his 2 kids were there, and his wife, and he had his...
Yeah, there was like another person there.
He has 3 kids.
No
and he had his other arm on somebody older.
He has 3 kids.
Is one Asian? And maybe I just thought this person was Asian, but it was like,
well, he had
somebody almost, I would say, about the same height as him that he had his arm on.
His daughter's tall.
It wasn't a woman.
Not a
boys are younger than his.
Yeah, it was not. Yeah, because he has 2 younger boys, and then the daughter's the oldest, right?
His daughter is the oldest.
And then
of the 3 kids,
his other arm was on like a full-size person.
Was it not his wife?
No, his arm was on his wife.
Okay.
The kids were in front, and then his other arm was on a man.
Maybe it
looked like a. No, it was. He had hair.
Okay.
Maybe it was.
Hair, didn't he?
No, he's bald.
I'm not gonna lie. I wish I could watch it again.
Yeah,
but you're gonna go see it on Monday.
And then there's another one behind
Bucky and
which
it's just a guy.
Yeah, who
is
is
that?
that?
Who the fuck is that?
I know exactly who you're talking about, and I don't know who the fuck that is. I thought that's what I was like, because I was like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, there's 2 of them.
So yeah, maybe
the kid behind Scarlet Witch and Bucky and who else was it? Sam. That's the kid who is now a teenager from Iron Man 3.
Oh, duh.
Not duh. I wouldn't have put duh. Like, how do I think that little boy? So then who was the Asian guy?
I'm looking. I just said the one. And maybe I'm making shit up. But there was another person with his family.
I just didn't see it. I only was able to see his family and him, and then because I was trying to make sure I saw everything.
I know. I was looking at. I'm not gonna lie. I was looking
at tears.
Yeah, I was looking through teary eyes.
Yeah, but it was one moment, and then obviously, was it not Happy? No, where was Happy?
Happy was sitting on the porch at one point with.
That was after.
That was after the funeral. Yeah,
I think Happy.
He was probably up with Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then after there, everybody, we go to them. They have to put the stones back where they belong.
Right.
So they send Cap to do all of that, and then when he tries to pull them back, nobody comes back at all. And when that happened, when he went and they started counting down, I started thinking, I was like, it's gonna be Black Widow coming back. Because he's gonna have found a way to sacrifice himself to bring Natasha back. But then when nobody came back, I was like, oh shit.
And Bucky knew it too.
And Bucky knew.
So he turned around and he saw. He's like, hey, look over here.
He decided to stay.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and they see a little old guy sitting on a bench.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Bucky looks at Sam and he says, "Go ahead." Sam walks up to him and it's old Captain America, Steve Rogers,
and they,
sitting there, and
they have a little conversation.
Yeah, they have a little
he
talk.
Asks him, about what was going on and how he feels, and then
he hands him
the shield, basically saying, "Hey,
says,
so we're getting the Sam Wilson Captain America.
That's
possibly
awesome.
I'm not gonna say it's guaranteed, but
I think
more than likely it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And then they do the flashback and they show him getting his dance
with Peggy. That was so good.
And that's how it goes off, isn't it?
Yeah, that's how it ends.
Yep. Yeah, and then
that's
that's
how
it.
the movie
No end
ends.
credits. They had a nice little outro.
Yeah. Man, are we done? You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
I mean we could go for another 2 hours.
Oh my god, 2 hours and 20 minutes into our recording, and there's not going to be a lot getting cut out. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you should just upload it raw.
I'm not opposed to that. But you got anything more? No,
that's it.
We went through every beat almost of this movie.
I'm very.
No, sorry.
I know what you were gonna say. Somebody speak.
I only did that because
I think
of what was just happening.
You were gonna talk about Stanley.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring
We did
up.
get a quick Stanley.
Okay, you go there, and then I can make my point because
the Stanley
us
cameo,
not talking about that doesn't make my point.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to talk?
Yeah, do that.
It was
and
really
then
quick
my point.
though. It was really quick because it was one of the cooler ones because it was back in 1970, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they de-aged Stan Lee.
Yeah,
and
he had like a long hair.
Yeah, he looked like a hippie.
A little bit more color in his hair.
A little more color, yeah.
Driving
that
a
was
hot
our
rod.
last. They said it was a last Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah,
it was a very quick one, very short.
Mm-hmm.
And what did he say? He said something like "get off the road" or something like that.
I can't even remember.
Yeah, I can't even remember.
He was yelling something.
Yeah, he was yelling something.
Now I can say how impressed I am with us going almost scene for scene in a 3-hour movie. like when we sat down, I was like, "What even happened in the first act?" And then once we started talking about it, we got it beat for beat almost.
Yeah, well, I think we were. Well, I know I was, and we were. We've been looking forward to this movie for a long time.
Yeah.
I know we have.
I was about 2 weeks. It wasn't fast enough, I guess, because the hype. I guess they dropped the trailers. I think about 2 weeks ago, I was like, "You can't hype me anymore. Like, I'm done. I'm ready for this movie now."
Mm-hmm.
They would have released the trailer 2 weeks later. I would have still been at like the top hype, even though I was like 98% hyped. I was just like, I was at that top, and I can only hold that top hype for so many weeks. Where I'm like, just give me the movie. Yeah. And I started to decline until today. We finally sat when that Hawkeye scene came on at the cold open. I was like, oh my god. It's here.
I know. I thought the same thing.
I told Warren. I leaned over to Warren. I was like, "It should be illegal to play trailers before this movie."
Yeah.
They played like 5 of them. They played like 5 of them. Like, I don't care.
Many, yeah.
Except that 21 Bridges movie. I hadn't seen that trailer. Good. I was like, "Wow, this looks really good."
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
I wonder if they put that before that because Chadwick Boseman
and the Russo brothers had something to do with that too. They either produced it or directed it.
Yeah, because it said like from the mines or something. Like it didn't say directed.
Yeah. It said something like from the guys behind Infinity War.
The mines, I think it said.
The mines. Yeah, I think that's what it said. I think they just produced it though.
Right, probably.
Once again, let us know what you guys think on Facebook at Zero Cred Podcast or on Twitter at ZC_podcast. You can listen to us on Spotify and iTunes or on any of your typical podcasting apps like Podbean or whatever. If you listen to us on iTunes, please make sure you leave a 5-star rating and leave us a review. That certainly helps us out a lot. You guys got anything you want to add before we go?
Go see it.
Go see it. Yeah, that's all I got to say. We'll catch you guys on the next one.